Good morning, everybody. We are so excited that you have joined us on our last session for the Journey to Executive Coordinator, Lessons on the Journey. And I have previewed this information today, and it is so excellent. And I'm just thrilled that we're talking about it. So welcome to today.
There's our training team, and we're grateful to them. They have all been advancing. In fact, I believe Ashley McDonald, that she, this is maybe the month that she advances to Senior Executive Coordinator. So
maybe, definitely.
Definitely. Okie dokie. Oh, that a girl. Yeah. And Harper had advanced to Key, and Katie is within striking distance. So it's this is why we've chosen these folks, because they are all growing their businesses, and they bring tremendous insights as a result. So with that, let's look at our objectives for today.
And so we are going to be tackling these lessons learned along the way. And isn't that just the saying that they talk about is it's not the destination, it's the journey. And this is what all today is going to be about, is what we have learned along the way of becoming an executive coordinator. And even if you're not there yet, this is so helpful, because all of us need to be reminded of these topics we're going to talk about today over and over again throughout our career, no matter what our level is in the business. So we're going to review a few behaviors that psychologists call self-defeating behaviors. We're going to recognize any of these within ourselves that may be getting in the way of us and our relationships with people. We're going to also it's going to kind of open our eyes too to see, oh, this might be what so-and-so is struggling with as you're coaching them. And then finally, we're going to ask the trainers just to share a few things that they have learned along the way as well.
So I wanted to tell you, just to set this up, I came across some notes that I had taken from a seminar that I attended back in 1985. And it made such, now that tells you something about the piles of papers in my home, but I am constantly sorting through periodically, and this is, pre-computer time, right? Mm-hmm. But this particular seminar made such an impact on me that I have referred to it multiple times since. And so I didn't want to lose the great opportunity of having a therapist on the training team with us to help us navigate that. That would be Ashley McDonald, to help us navigate these. And I just remember the first time I heard about these self-defeating behaviors, every time this gentleman explained an additional one, I'd go, oh, I got that one. Oh, I got that one. And see, part of, we can't get better unless we understand who we are and what we're dealing with. And so it was the beginning of my journey in working on personal development. So these are behaviors, self-defeating behaviors, that we adopt for all kinds of reasons, mostly because of how we were raised, but they can really diminish our capacity to have authentic relationships with people. And in most cases, we don't even know we're doing it. And so thank you, Ashley, for joining us and walking us through these and get us started. Let's talk about caretaker.
Absolutely. I think we're all going to experience while going through this that what Barb was saying, where you feel that, oh, I got that. Oh, maybe I'm that one. No, I'm that one. And I know that I experience this every time too. So this isn't a shaming training. Mm-hmm. This is rather a self-awareness training, because even though I can see myself in a lot of these, just getting prepared for this webinar taught me so many things and helped me to reawaken that awareness of some of my own personal behaviors. So that's really the point of why we're doing this. So we look here at the caretaker, i.e. an exaggerated extreme of healthy impulse. Caretakers take responsibility for everybody else. This is kind of the mama bear. They do for others what they should probably do for themselves. Mm-hmm. No is not in their vocabulary. They feel responsible for everyone and everything at all times, which obviously comes with a ton of guilt. Mm-hmm. And they are world-class warriors. So these are the types of people that I think of a lot of moms. I thought of my own mom when I saw this. I think of myself, and oftentimes how my son will eat better than I eat because it just is how it ends up happening. And it's just really awakening that awareness around, for me, what I see with this is the idea of a role model. And if you're not practicing what you're preaching and doing what you want others on your team to do, or even in your family, you really can't expect your children to adopt healthy eating habits if you don't adopt them yourself, even if you're feeding them healthy, So this is that idea of finding a little bit of balance around loving others and loving yourself.
Ashley, can I add an example to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just contemplating, this was even before I knew about this slide, but I just realized last week I have made a shift in my thinking over the last couple of years. I've been in Shaklee for several years, and a few years ago, I have had some directors, title to director and then retitle back to distributor. And I really, for me, felt like I took this on, that it must have been my fault, that I wasn't a good leader, and that's why they didn't maintain. And I've made lots of gains with this kind of behavior in lots of areas in my life, but that's what I identified a couple of years ago, that this was a sliver of some unhealthiness in my thinking that was maintaining in my Shaklee leadership, that I had to let go of. Sure, there were probably some things I could do better and be a better leader. I'm always, I always believe I can improve, but that they have part in it too, that it's not all my fault. They have, life happens and different things happen. And so I needed to embrace that and just say, okay, what can I learn from this and move on? But I didn't realize that until I really did a lot of digging, that this was something I still felt guilty about. And Barb, when you had asked me a few years ago, you said, how do you feel? And I said, I feel like there's people who want to do this business, but I don't know that I could lead them. And then that was kind of the digging out from that. So just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the other thing I want to mention, actually, on a number of these, is if all of us were asked, is being a caretaker a good thing or a bad thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think initially my thought was, oh, that's a good thing, to care about others and so on. It becomes a question of degree, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know where to draw the line of when I was taking care of people who really were capable of taking care of themselves. And what happens if you do that? You start treating people like victims. Mm-hmm. So their image of themselves is that I'm a victim and I need Barbara to rescue me in my business or rescue me in my, raising my kid, whatever it is. That's one part of it. And the other part of it is the caretaker will burn out. Mm-hmm. Because you can't take care of every single person. And this is why we all need to find our way with this. And it's why I so appreciated, one of the things that helped me with new awareness was reading the books about what is a leader. Mm-hmm. A leader is not a caretaker. A leader is a maker of leaders. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you can't be caring. And it doesn't mean you can't, coach and nurture. It's a question of degree. Okay, that was a good one, Ashley. What's the next one?
People pleasers, which you might sometimes think is the same thing, but there's a different avenue for this. So these are people that are really dependent on other people's approval. And I do not say this as a rude thing, but my husband is the epitome of a people pleaser. He just can't bear people not feeling happy with him. And, he just goes above and beyond for people. And for so many reasons, that's why I fell in love with him. And it's also many reasons why he frustrates me. So they worry what their neighbors will say. They want peace at any price. So that's not, speaking up for yourself, not defending yourself, not, giving the space for your own opinions. They can never say no because you might get mad and go away. So that's kind of the caretaker thing as well. They just can't say no. No is, again, not in their vocabulary. They will never say what they want out of a relationship, but make it so bad that the other person can't stand it. So rather than using their words, sometimes their actions start to show through. Which can be super detrimental because that's sort of passive aggressive. And they lie a lot because they are fearful of hurting people's feelings. So it's usually those white lies that seem somewhat innocent, but often, they add up and can really be held against somebody. The people that say, oh gosh, I can't come to that event because I have this thing. And it's not really the actual reason behind it. So,
or they say, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. And then they're not there because they don't know how to tell you that they're not going to be there.
Absolutely.
There is a chapter. We just had our first women's retreat in this past weekend. And the book that we read was called Playing Big by Tara Mohr, M-O-H-R, Tara Mohr. And there's a chapter in there. And that's about this. It's about not being dependent on the approval of others. That when sometimes being a leader sometimes is a little lonely, in that, especially in the beginning, when we have this vision of this business that we want to form, and we may have family members, best friends, people who sincerely care about us, who say, what the heck are you doing? Those things don't work, and you don't know how to run a business, and what makes you think you could do this? And what about this and that and the other thing? And it really takes courage to get to a quiet place and figure out really what is it that my heart is leading me to. And I know for me that was very difficult in the beginning because my best friend she wasn't on board. And I had to learn whether I was going to allow her to change what I was loving, or if I had the courage to carry on and love her where she was. And eventually that's what happened. And for women especially, she was saying in this Playing Big book that we have a tendency to be good girls. We have a tendency to do what other people want us to do and expect us to do. And it was, if there's one thing I feel like we've learned in our delving into this last 10 weeks about leadership and about coaching, it's that, we have a lot of really good instincts and insights and intuitions, and trust it. Trust it. When you get to a quiet place and so there's another version of this that is when we offer information to people about any aspect of Shaklee, it's that piece about not being hooked to the results, right? Our job is to present. It's not to be, to feel that we failed if they are not enrolled in it. So that's all about people pleasing. That's where a lot of that fear of rejection comes from, is around this. So, all right. Anything else on people pleasing, Ashley, or we're on to the next?
On to the next, the martyrs. Life is a struggle, people. I can also think of a few people that I will not name, including myself in some of these areas, right? They nobly suffer for others. Some of these things just really crack me up. My reward will be in heaven. They're good warriors, that it's not hot, it's boiling. And you know what I'm really guilty of? I'm the super over-exaggerator. In fact, in hhigh school, I won most exaggerated because I'm one of those people that's like, oh, I haven't slept in 10 years, 20 months. It's like 20 months pregnant. One of those over exaggerators, just, woe is me. We're going to to walk 5 miles in the rain uphill, right? Those stories that you hear. Martyrs go without what they need so others can have what they don't. And they will go without socks so kids can have a tennis racket. And that's definitely, again, that's where you can kind of see that caretaker interweaved in there. Although this person, rather than being the caretaker and sort of shamelessly just doing whatever, not saying anything, the martyr makes sure that everybody knows that they have done everything for everybody else. So they become incapable of enjoying themselves. I kind of think of a martyr really as just one of those negative Nancys, just kind of like everything is, oh my gosh, it took me forever to get here. I kind of felt like that today. My printer was like broken and I got ink all over myself, and I kind of felt like, nothing ever goes right. It's such a silly thing to say, because nothing ever goes right is totally unrealistic. Just this one thing is not going right in this very moment. Things are never great. Yes, go ahead.
It's very hard to be around them because they're such killed.
Yes.
Yeah, and when you recognize within yourself, and it is a big attention getter.
Yeah.
You know, I think of the classic Italian mother, you know, that, no, that's all right. You children go on. Have a good time. I'll just stay here and wash the dishes. You know, it's that stuff. And it's like, the dishes can wait. Let's all go have fun together. Right. I saw this. In fact, the man who led this conference the day we did this, he wove his story in around this, and he had become a Catholic priest. And he explained how that happened because of the way he was raised, and his father was not only ignored him, but was kind of cruel to him. And so all these behaviors he had developed to try to please his father, to try to not rock the boat, to try to, and so when he started the discussion about martyrs, he said, now, do we have any recovering Catholics here? I almost fell off my chair because I don't know a lot about Catholicism, but I got the impression from him that somehow that can be woven into that religion. But, you know, I think you could say, are there any recovering Jewish mothers here? You know, isn't that? I mean, there's all kinds of classic stereotypes about this. We just have to make sure that if we were raised in that environment, that we haven't adopted it.
Right. That's that piece of self-awareness. So being able to, you know, throughout this say, oh yeah, I see a little bit of that. Like myself, when I was reading this, you know, even just now reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was just the martyr in my office just now. Like as I'm basically the ink stained floor and like, I got to get on this webinar. This is so frustrating. Like I was the martyr, and just getting, you know, being aware of that so that you can take control of your own life, but also being aware of that when you're dealing with other people. Sometimes it's really powerful to be able to recognize certain characteristics in somebody, not to shame them, not to point it out, but just to know within yourself and recognize that and feel a little bit of empowerment of like, okay, that's all right. You know, you've got this. I had that. You know, you deal with it on your own time kind of thing, so that we don't become such defensive, angry, grudge-holding people.
Yeah. And we don't buy into it.
Right.
You know, when we see this in the people that we're coaching, we now offer a different view. Like we point out
this webinar.
all their right. We point out their strengths. We point out what we see in them. We point out that they're better than that, you know, and so when we see them different and we act differently, we model behavior and so forth, then they see a different model for it than maybe the family from which they came. Very good.
Absolutely.
All right, on to the next. Okay, what do we got now? Oh,
workaholics.
This is mine. Oh boy.
I had a feeling, Barb. People who learn their self-image is based on producing, or at least being busy, because sometimes people aren't even producing; they're just like busy bees. So feeling guilty when you take time off. You have to work really hard. You have to carry 4 buckets, not 2. Run, don't walk. Work through lunch. You know, you look at other people who aren't working and you have that mentality of, you know, you're not doing what I'm doing, so you're lazy. Don't take days off. Really need a sense of balance and limits. Feel guilty relaxing, and definitely have a difficulty asking for what they need. And oftentimes that is the biggest problem for workaholics. They want to, we'll learn about perfectionists next, but similar to perfectionists, they want to be able to do it themselves. And so they're not going to ask for a lot of help. And that can be really detrimental to anybody. This is the kind of person, and I have some of these characteristics. I definitely feel guilty when I'm not doing things. I am for sure the kind of mom that, especially pregnant now, when I'm like, okay, he's napping, I ought to nap. That's what I should do. But I can't, because I lay there and my to-do list is like on repeat on like rap tune, and I cannot sleep. And so that, this kind of personality can make somebody very high strung, very hard to be around. And really just needs to work on finding that balance. I think we all need to work on finding that balance ultimately.
And for me, it was learning how to delegate, how to share the leadership. That's one of the places that shows up. And the other piece is not being busy for the sake of busyness. But making sure that, and it was interesting, I just had this actually, Katie and I were talking about this yesterday, as I realized, I said, you know what, nobody can run. We set our goals in 90-day chunks in Shaklee, right? And in life, we were told that's like the ideal time frame. And she was saying, she was observing that some people were kind of, when June hit and the kids were out of school, they were kind of taking a breath. And I said to her, yeah, that's appropriate, because nobody can run and sprint indefinitely for more than 90 days. And then take a breath, take some time, get things stabilized and maintained, and then you get rejuvenated. Then you get refreshed, and now your energy has been restored, and now you're ready to hit it again. That's a very good rhythm to the business.
Absolutely. Perfectionist.
Oh, here's this is not mine. I will tell you. I mean, there's been in my house. No, not a problem. Okay.
This is where I fall the most. I think I've totally self-deprecated and said I'm in all of these, but for sure, perfectionist. So trying to get everything right? Doing everything perfectly. I can't, I create all my own images rather than finding them, because I can never find one that's just what I was looking for. Like those kind of things that I should definitely work on. If you can't do something right, don't do it all. Katie and I were talking yesterday, when you fall behind on like a podcast series or a training, we both have that mentality of like, I'm all behind. I'm too overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. Just because you didn't kind of fall in line with what was quote supposed to happen. How come nobody hosts me? No one can do it right. It's my way or the highway. Dictator, very rigid. I'm pretty sure if my husband was here, he would say that I was a little bit of a dictator in the home about how things need to go in the house. I got that from my mama, so we'll blame her. Yeah. There is never a happy perfectionist. I'd like to say that's not me, but there's definitely, that perfectionist mentality constantly feels that overwhelming, like nothing is good enough. Nothing is up to par. It's again, I think the workaholic and the perfectionist can oftentimes go very much hand in hand.
I think too, Ashley, that this can bleed over into that caretaker, because you're wanting, as a leader, you have figured out a method that works really well for you. And so we, of course, present those things to our leaders underneath us, but they may not choose to do it exactly how we did it, and they may get the same results. But sometimes perfectionists struggle with the system. This is not my area either. Actually, I don't have perfectionism, and I just am interested in results. I don't care how you get there, but let's just do results. And but sometimes the system part for the perfectionism person, that's very important to them because they know it worked for them. And so kind of evaluating yourself, look at yourself, is this part of me? I've got a good system that works. I wonder if if I can be okay if people use other systems and still get good results. I
think the biggest problem for a perfectionist is, guess what? The world isn't perfect, and people aren't perfect. And the greatest source of frustration and stress is what they call discrepancy stress. It's when you expect things to be one way, but they're actually another way. And that difference between what you expect and what you get can create enormous stress. And so that's hard on perfectionists. Letting go of that is difficult. But this is great. Okay, any others left? Oh, one more.
Answer.
Okay.
The person who has difficulty making a commitment. I think I've met a lot of these people, especially in the business that we do, right? Never tell the full truth. They may tell you they love you, but they also told 4 other people the same thing. Will end a relationship before making a commitment. Do their shackly business in a closet. So these are, the kind of people where you message them. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to build the best business ever. It's going to be the best business. I'm going to be your top earner. And then you never hear from them again because they go into witness protection. Exactly. Or at least that's all that you can assume, right? And it can be sometimes like, what in the world? And oftentimes for those of us that are on the opposite end of that, it can be struggling to not think, what did I do wrong sometimes? And I think this is when that awareness of those around us and not buying into what they do can be really powerful, because we're going to get a lot of people who don't respond, and that has nothing to do with you. Nothing at all. And I'm actually going to talk a lot about that in the next few slides. But so the tapped answer is just that person who cannot commit, just is unwilling to really say yes, no to anything, and might tell you what you want to hear. But they're also telling everybody else what they want to hear.
and mostly that's a fear-based thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right. If I commit to this business and I fail, if I commit to doing that meeting and then it doesn't work out so well, I think it's a fear of failure, fear of not measuring up, I think shows up there. And that's why, these books about failing forward, that's another one of the 100 zillion books that John Maxwell has written, but it's, that we really hammer that in, you see it all throughout the training, is that encourage failure, encourage trying new things and figuring it out and being willing to accept when it hasn't worked out perfectly, but think about how much faster you learn from things like that. So it's that's a fear factor there, and one of the ways around it is reminding people and reflecting back to people what they do well, and giving them permission to fail, that's a good thing. Very good. All right. Now we're on to the ones that you found, Ashley, the 4 mental enemies of success.
Yes, and this is something that I've gotten from Bob Heilig, and I just want to say that this has really helped me in my business. It was a webinar I watched quite a while ago, but it has just stuck with me. It stuck with me as a leader. It stuck with me as a person, and I really hope that y'all will get the same benefit that I have. So it's the idea of changing the way you think. So it actually goes really well with everything we've talked about. So you've got that awareness, some things. Now, these are the 4 mental enemies of success when it comes to this business. So the 4 things that can absolutely derail somebody. And I'm also going to talk about what those are, but how do we counteract them? And I love this, by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail, and really luck favors the prepared. So the idea behind this is being prepared to handle these things, because I can promise everybody on this webinar and beyond that you will deal with all 4. So this first one is rejection, the dreaded rejection. So it's important to know that whether you're new in the business or you've been in the business forever, more will say no than say yes. That's just how it's going to be. This is not like I want everyone to get all negative, but it is, again, that awareness. Awareness is power. So more people will say no than they say yes. There will be a lot of negative people. In fact, some of those negative people, especially when you're brand new, are going to be your friends and your family. That can suck unless you're prepared to know that that's going to happen. So be careful who you listen to. When you buy their opinion, you buy their lifestyle. I love that, because the truth is, when you look at those who had the most negative things to say or didn't want to support you or totally surprise you with their actions. And then you look at their lifestyle, you see how unhappy they are. You see maybe they don't like the job that they have. And again, that's that fear-based idea, but it's very empowering to look and see like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I don't want to buy that lifestyle. Sure, you can have your opinions, but I don't want to go to a job I hate every day. And so, one of the things that Bob says that I just think is so true, and some of his trainings are a little harsh, so I forewarn people. I actually love it, so when I'm trying to share what he shares, it's going to sound like I'm being harsh, but it is really brilliant information. And he says, most people won't play a part in their own rescue. They're not saying no, or they're saying no to themselves. They're not saying no to you. So don't take it personal. When somebody says no, more often than not, they're saying no to them, especially when you're talking about the business opportunity. They are fearful. They don't think that they can do it. They're not willing to step outside of the box. They are very comfortable in their comfort zone, right? So remember not to take those kind of things personally. So tips for being prepared: be courageous, be a risk taker, be relentless, and have fun. Take action in spite of fear. Don't focus on the results, focus on the activity, and ultimately reduce rejection by increasing exposures. And one of Bob's tips is the minimum for serious part-time builders. So if you're a part-timer, you're doing, any sort of part-time hours, and you're serious and you really want an extraordinary business, you ought to be contacting at least 3 to 5 new people a day. And it's kind of funny because he says these things, and even when I was doing the training, he was like, if you're going to ask yourself honestly, how many new people are you contacting a day? And it was a little bit of a rude awakening for me. Because then he would say, and then why do you expect a bigger business? And it's kind of funny because no matter where you are in your business, whether you're trying to get to director or you're trying to get to exec, you still need to be contacting new people every single day. And that idea of the more you contact, the less rejection sucks. Because if you're contacting 30 people in a week and you have 20 of those say no, it doesn't even matter because 10 said yes. 10 said yes, and that's a huge number, right? Okay, so that's rejection. This next one is deception. This is a tough one too. People are going to lie to you. We talked about this, right? People who say they're going to show up to an event but don't. Last minute cancellations. Oh my gosh, I feel like because I have been on contact overload for this massive action that I've been doing, I have dealt with a lot of no-shows and last minute cancellations for 3-way calls and stuff like that. Ooh, it really grinds my gears. I have to think, especially because oftentimes it's scheduled around my son's schedule and there's so many other things I could be doing, but it's just important to be aware of this kind of stuff, right? You'll likely have a couple guest-free parties. I think I've shared this before, but one of my favorite things that I learned early on in the business, I have no idea who said it, but somebody that was a master coordinator said in order to get into our club, i.e. the Master Coordinator Club, you have to have a minimum of 100 parties with no guests.
Yes.
And I loved that because it normalized. Yeah, it normalized like having anytime I had an event and no one showed up and I had 10 people that said they were going to be there, I thought, all right, one party closer to master rather than getting negative about it. Some might even take samples or say yes to watching a video, and then they'll never use the samples and they'll never respond to you again. These things will happen and it can be so frustrating, but here are some tips for being prepared. Understand deception will always be a part of the business. Just know that. That's just a part of what you're doing. Don't make people feel bad when they lie to you. You are special. I love this. You are special. You have something many people don't when it comes to entrepreneurship. You want more for your life, and that is extraordinary. So remember that. Again, not a shaming tactic. I'm not telling anybody to respond to somebody and say, well, clearly I want more in my life than you. Don't do that. Do not do that. But have that awareness, that ability to say, it's okay. I know what I want. It's okay. And honestly, at the end of the day, most of the time when somebody says no or doesn't respond, it's just not the right time right now. And I think Bethany is on the webinar, so not to point her out or anything, but I have a brand new business partner, and I have been trying to have her become a business partner for a very long time. I've always seen such brightness in her. And there's probably, I bet you would say, at least 5 or 6 unresponded to messages. And so when I reached out really just to check in and say, hey, nothing Shaklee related, and she responded, I'm ready to start a business. I was almost floored. Like, what kind of business? What are you talking about? Like, I didn't have any interest in Shaklee at all anymore, And so it's just really interesting, to remember it's just not right now. And to keep that in mind. Okay.
Oh, good.
So this next one is apathy. Apathy. There will be people who join and do nothing. That's the people who sign up and go into witness protection, right? Some people just don't have what it takes. I have had a lot of people, tons, that sign up, and especially the ones, Bob always says, if somebody tells me off the get-go, like, I'm going to be your next top earner, give me 2 weeks, I'm going to earn, $1 million, it's going to be amazing. He says that's usually one of his first signs, his first red flag. So reasons for apathy, and where does apathy come from? Uncoachability. Ego, so that inability to ask for help, shyness, or other personality complications. And so he talks a lot about, don't let your personality be an excuse for not being what you can be in your life. Don't say, oh, I can't have I'm shy. Oh, I don't like to do, I don't, all those kind of excuses. And I think we can all admit to being that at some point in time. That's just not me. My personality doesn't jive with that, right? But at the end of the day, to get what you've never had, you have to do things you've never done. And, Katie and I talked a lot about this yesterday on the phone, that our comfort zone is really our self-imposed prison. When we decide what our comfort is, we imprison ourselves in this space. And it is our job, through this sort of awareness of our behaviors and our experiences and our past, it's our job to figure out where that key is and how to unlock it, because we deserve it. We deserve so much more. Tips for being prepared. Again, this is going to be that leadership, which is really a good place for where you are now, this whole webinar series. Optimal leadership and influence. And so to avoid this apathy with other people, the first 72 hours are critical. Do the work with them, help them create results as soon as possible, and operate like they'll quit tomorrow while treating them like your top earner. So give them the same respect, love, and everything that you can imagine, as if they do the most extraordinary things, but also treat them as if they're going to quit tomorrow. And don't waste time, get to it in many terms, and really helping them to see. And remember, I think it's so hard, especially the longer you've been in the business, and I experience this often, is remembering all the things that you didn't know when you first started. And not just expecting people to kind of know how to do anything, even as simple as having conversations. This is a brand new exploration for them. So whatever it is that you're going to do, I've always said, I do those first 8 weeks to director webinar series with my new builders, because it's great information, and I just want to be there to help them process what they learn. And, just helping them learn some of those basics. And sometimes we forget those when we've been in longer than most. So teach and know that your comfort zone is that self-imposed prison. So and
Ashley, can I chime in too about something? I've been dying to chime in all morning, but you guys all your information has been so helpful. I love this. So one thing, because we will all experience this, where we have people who, where we want it more than they do. And something that I learned recently is those people still play a big role in your business. And here is why. It's learning to work through them. Meaning, there are many times where sometimes my second, third levels are working more closely with me than their uplines because they're more eager and intentional about growing, and that's exciting, and that's a good place to be. And sometimes you will find eventually through those people, you are going to find somebody that is motivated and that is wanting to work. And it's all about the people that they can connect you with. And so I heard that yesterday on a podcast, and it really stood out to me, and it made a lot of sense because when we get them to introduce us to other people, we're opening up a whole new door of potential people who are motivated and who are willing to do the work.
Such a good point, Katie.
And it's a win-win. You know, when we build in depth, the person on the top benefits. So it's always a good thing. Katie, and some of these other things that you wanted to speak to, is there anything else you want to say about some of the things that we've talked? Because what I'm seeing, Ashley, is these 4 things that Bob Heilig was talking about. You know, that chapter from Stephen Covey about seek first to understand before you seek to be understood, is that these 4 things that you've been talking about, I can see how they have come from those first, 5 or 6 things that we were talking about.
Totally. It goes really well
because
together.
The first 5 or 6 things are how people have been taught to view the world. Because of how they were raised. And the results are these 4 things that we now encounter in our businesses. Carry on. Good. Attrition. Okay.
Attrition. So this is the last of the 4 mental enemies. The definition for this is of attrition is action or process of gradually reducing strength or effectiveness of something or someone through sustained attack and pressure. Example, the people who join the business and disappear. That feels, it oftentimes feels like an attack on you, right? Because you feel like, what did I do wrong? I thought you were so excited. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know, the idea that honestly, you're going to build this business in plateaus. This business is going to ebb and flow. There's going to be really big times and really small times, but that can be really tiresome and overwhelming and often move people to walk away if they have that kind of, I had a great month, everybody said yes, and then I had a bad month, everybody said no, you know. And so again, that's that awareness that these are things that are going to happen in this business. It's normal, and don't give up. So why do people do this? Mostly due to never really developing a true why or dream. So why do people quit due to attrition is really what that's answering. So they're on board as long as it's going well. So those are the kind of people who have a moment of like, okay, it's not working anymore. Never mind. See you later. I disappear. Right. And that you're kind of like, you know, those people that come in, they get 10 customers in their first month. The next month doesn't work out so well. And then boom, gone. And you're like, I don't, what happened there? So tips for being prepared. This is a business of relationships. Develop them, serve others, and they won't quit on you. Right? They might quit on the business, but they're not going to quit on you if you have a real relationship with them. You've really helped them to establish their why. This is why having those coaching calls and really understanding why is it that you're doing this and being able to be that reminder for them and, you know, saying just simple texts of, gosh, you know, I just was thinking about, you know, your why again, or it crossed my mind this, or I'm so proud of you for that. You know, just those little things of really letting them know I'm here. You know, the business may ebb and flow. I'm not going to. This relationship stays. Get them involved as soon as possible with team calls, these kind of webinars, training, anything and everything you can, because whenever you have that positive association, you're around people who are loving their lives or doing entrepreneurship or, you know, all these different things with Shaklee people in general can really keep someone sort of high in their demeanor, but also be that role model of participation. It's sometimes really frustrating to see people have all these expectations for their team, but they don't do it themselves. You know, if you expect your team to be on team calls, you ought to be on team calls. If you expect your team to be on webinars, you ought to be on webinars. If you want to be a role model for those things as well, because again, if you have that relationship, they're going to be driven to be near you. What they lack in themselves, they start to get from others on the team. That's another reason for getting involved. You know, I love our team page. We have so much support and love. And I mean, it's just amazing. Somebody asks a question and 15 people hop. I mean, it's just so cool. You know, the team calls are cool. And it's just, you can really see how the team is now weaved together. You know, like no one knows who's under who or where falls where. You know, it's just, we're all just in it together. And that's really, really valuable. Detoxify your life of people who drain you. This is attrition, a preparedness of attrition for you as you're reading this, rather than helping others. But for you, if there's people that really drain you, don't go out of your way to make sure they stay on your team for a numbers game. Remember that you're building a legacy. This is a forever business. This isn't a right now quick fix 30-day paycheck. You know, you don't need to worry about sticking with people that really, really, really drain you. You know, there's absolutely resources and things that you can do, but at the end of the day, things that you can connect people to, but at the end of the day, you have to be aware of what drains you, because the reason you started this business is to have a happier, healthier life. Not to be drained and sad and every time you see the phone ring and it's that person, you're like, oh, I can't do this again. You know, you have to think of those kind of things. Is that rude? Am I being rude? But ultimately, you know, kind of the final words I would say for these four is, for attrition, first of all, is ultimately not only saying this to those that join you in business, but meaning it from the bottom of your heart. I believe in you. That is one of the most powerful things you can say to somebody who has started a business. I believe in you. And repeatedly and authentically, I believe in you. I know that when somebody says that to me, I just feel like I'm Superwoman. Well, that person believes in me. Watch what I can do. You know, there's just this power behind it. And so at the end of it all, I just want to say, stick with it long enough to get there. You are going to go through this stuff. All of this stuff is going to happen. Nobody is immune to any of these things. But having that awareness and knowing when to recognize them will change your business. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways of getting to exec and beyond, you know, because it takes a little time to get here and there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be goods and bads. But I think everybody on this webinar and beyond can say it's absolutely worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It reminds me too, Barb, when you always say we need to love people where they're at. And so they might be in any of these apathy, attrition, wanting to back away. Maybe they kind of reject us, you know, deception. We are still ourselves, even when we reconnect with them. We are still lovingly towards them. We love them where they're at. And I love that that's one of the things you say a lot, and I appreciate that, which is really good. So we wanted to share a little bit from each of us, just lessons we've learned along the way. The one I've been thinking a lot about lately is just for me to remember to be grateful. Has anyone ever had a little pity party for themselves?
Oh, never.
Sometimes I just get kind of in a little bit of a funk, and one of the things that helps me break out of it the quickest, and I feel like I'm because of Shaklee, I'm developing a stronger mind that even in the midst of some chaos in my life, I can have some awareness to say, hey, like I'm calming myself down. I'm telling that to myself. Let's just remember 3 things you're grateful for. And as soon as I do that, then I could make a list of 100 things I'm grateful for. You know, it just so helps just to remember how much we have to be grateful for. This was a big one for me, especially in the beginning. I still would say there's certain personalities I do still struggle with this a little bit. It's not like I'm totally over this, but it's the assuming game. I would assume for everybody. I would assume who'd be interested in the products. I would assume who want to do the business. And it actually took a ton of time, and it was exhausting, and it was pointless because I was trying to decide for them before I'd even had the conversation. And we have no idea what's going on in people's lives. And I don't know if you guys have had this happen, and I still I can catch myself thinking this even today, but I'll have an event and I will already kind of think, I think these two are going to be nuts about, these products or whatever. And a lot of time, not always, sometimes that does come true, but a lot of times it's not the two people I thought, it's these two other people that I would have never thought they'd go for any of it. And so it reminds me again and again, I cannot assume, and just that our job is to share, it's their job to decide. And so when you're looking at this with your business people, this is a huge thing. We do not want to assume for people who the business is for. We have no idea whose husband just lost their job or whose daughter wants to do volleyball camp and they need an extra, $700 a month or whatever. We have no idea. And so it is just our job to be the announcer. We share it. We tell people about it and they can decide. And just that last little bit, I think sometimes for me, part of mine is that I would justify maybe not approaching somebody about the business because I was really scared to talk to him, basically. But I was thinking, well, I don't think that would be for them, or I don't think they would want that. And so just the biggest lesson, do not assume for anybody when you are thinking about any part of our business, the products or the business. Then this last one is just making judgments, particularly about affordability. And this was a huge one for me. Any of you out there that are just starting your businesses, this was a really, really big one for me. I was a frugal mom. And most of my friends were frugal moms. And so I thought, I don't think anybody's going to buy any of this because I viewed the products as expensive instead of viewing this as this is one of the best ways I can spend my money because I actually get results. But I did. So when you look at that scarcity versus abundance mentality, I thought, I think these are too expensive. I don't think people are going to buy this versus this is such a wonderful gift that I can give people. These products work. So now I present the options and allow people to decide. It's very similar to number 2, where I'm just not going to assume. I'm just going to put it out there. And Ashley, you've talked about this before too. Just let them say what their budget is. You present some options and then they can kind of tell you, oh, I think, number 2 is going to work for them or whatever. But especially those of you that are listening today that are new and this whole gaining customers and that kind of thing, this is something I want to be sure and pass along to you.
Very important, I think, because I think too often we will already decide for people, oh, they're not going to be able to afford Vitalizer or Life Plan. And in reality, we don't know that. We don't know. I mean, sometimes people really understand and see the value in taking care of your health, and they don't care what it costs. But I can relate to that, Becky, and I can relate to the fact that if you think that our products are too expensive, your customers will for sure think they are too expensive. But if you're confident in why our products are priced at where they're priced, another thing I also share with people is that Shaklee really invests a lot in research and development, and because of that, our products sometimes won't be as cheap, and I'm going to use the word cheap because that's where you can find other products at other stores. So, yeah, I think that's
nice.
Too.
Okay,
well, and just this whole thing about it's the journey that's the important part. We are becoming different people as we move on to the next rank. We are learning more each day, and I just love that. I love it.
Well, we are finally getting to Katie that we had set up because she has little people at her feet, and so we gave her a block. But and
I knew this would happen. That my son's been 5 the entire time, and right now he's starting to need me, and I knew this was going to happen.
There you go. Of course, we're very tolerant, but
I'll be very quick.
Feel free to comment on anything that we've discussed before too.
Okay. So a lot of these actually have already been spoken. So getting comfortable doing the uncomfortable, I think Ashley shared that. There are a lot of things that make me very uncomfortable in this business. And people think, I think sometimes people think because I'm outgoing or whatever, that this speaking and stuff comes more naturally to people like us. And I will tell you, we all get nervous. I get nervous presenting in front of a group of people. Even to this day, I get nervous going live on Facebook. But I will tell you, getting nervous and working through that angst grows you as a person. There have been some very nerve-wracking calls I've had to make where, my stomach was just in knots because what are they going to say? What are they going to think? This is a hard conversation to have. And after I get off that call or after I share the business with somebody, there is something that happens inside of you. So I just encourage you to get comfortable doing things that are uncomfortable. If having an in-home event scares you, that's exactly what you need to do. If going live on Facebook scares you, that's exactly what you need to do, because remember, the only way we can conquer our fears and to get better is to practice. And my very first in-home was so different than my in-homes now. And even just going live is different now. And I still, hopefully in a year later from now, will get even better at that. But that comes with a lot of practice, and it comes with doing those scary things. Everything comes down to two things in our business. Almost everything really does. And that's mindset, that our mindset will determine our success. And the second key piece is learning to connect with people. And the class that Ashley and I are taking, he encourages you to call one person every day, but it's not to talk about Shaklee. It is merely just to connect, just like how Ashley talked about when you go to a coffee shop or when you go to a park. Your goal is not to gain a new member. Your goal is to find a new friend and to connect with a new person. And I have found when I call a friend and catch up with them and, hey, how's everything going? I was just thinking about you. They naturally ask me about Shaklee because they've been seeing me live out my business. They've been seeing me live out my life. And a lot of times, you know what they end up saying? I've been meaning to talk to you about, and then whatever it is. But if we don't have that call with them, they're most likely they're not going to initiate that. So if you're looking to grow to exec, and even with people on our team, sometimes every now and then I just do a check-in call. It's not necessarily just to make a plan or to strategize. It's, hey, just hadn't heard from you in a while. How are you doing? Just wanted to see how things were going, just to check in with them. Learn to listen and identify other people's needs. I think it's so important that in this business, we have to learn to see where people are at and what kind of needs they have. We're all going to experiencing discouraging moments and difficult moments. And in those moments is when I learned that I need to listen to a podcast. I need to call a friend. I need to read a professional development book. I need to skill up. And so when my mind is in a funk or is in a bad place, I need to begin to fill my mind with positive thinking. I need to fill my mind with the right mindset, or else what I'm about to do will most likely not lead to anything because I'm not in the right place. So if you're feeling discouraged, if you're feeling stuck, I think it's so important to begin to
don't talk to anybody.
Yeah, right. Yeah, don't talk to anybody. Exactly. As a busy mom, but I think everybody's busy. I mean, even if you're not a mom, sometimes reading books can be hard. So podcasts have been a lot easier for me. I listen to podcasts a lot. Everybody makes fun of me, but that's my way of skilling up and learning. And so I just, yesterday I was cleaning from room to room and I had my phone on and I brought my podcast from room to room. And I will tell you, it's so much easier. Oh, hi, buddy. To clean than when you're listening to something motivating you and encouraging you. And then I think Ashley's going to talk about this, so I won't go too much into this, but focus on activity, not results. So often we focus on the results. Oh, that person didn't say yes about the business. Oh, that person didn't get back to me. That's focusing on the results. I want my focus to be all about activity. My focus for this month is how can I share Shaklee with more people? How can I introduce Shaklee to more people? And it's really focusing on those different activities that will generate and not getting too caught up in the results because that's where we get discouraged. And then remembering consistency pays off. This is something if I wish I would have known almost 4 years ago. I think it would have really helped me in my business, that when I was doing those late nights, when I was getting up early to work, when I was spending my nap time working, when I would have loved to just be relaxing or just doing nothing, those are those moments where that work that I was doing was going to pay off for years and years and years to come. And even I was thinking about the power of an in-home, because we're going to be talking about in-homes in a couple weeks, and how an in-home can be more prep. You're prepping your home, you're getting snacks out, you're doing a lot of invites. But an in-home, I have found, have often been the most successful, and have been those things where I have worked that one in-home and I've had customers reorder for years and years and years to come, and new team members. And so remembering about that consistency every single day. What are those small things that you can do that really lead to something? And then becoming an intentional entrepreneur, I think, is really important, because really setting aside what it looks like for you to treat your business like a business, and that if you treat it like a sometimes business, you'll get paid as a sometimes business. But if you treat your business with those consistent things that you do every day, you will get paid that way as well. And then the last thing I'll just share that I've been really learning lately is learning that it's okay to say no. This was very hard for me when I was hearing the people-pleasing thing. That really appealed to me, because I don't like people to be upset with me. I don't like people to be unhappy with me. I want to be there for them. But when I heard this great podcast by Chalene Johnson, who talked about, it's called Learning to Say No, I think, she said that she often found herself saying yes to things she really didn't want to do. And the people that you always want to think about, that you never want to disappoint, is your family. And so I've had to say no to some things. And I don't mean shackly necessarily, but no as in commitments or different things to overwhelm my schedule, because I want to remember what I'm doing for the long run. And so sometimes that will be hard, because I can't do certain things, or I can't maybe go out or spend the day doing something, but instead I'm learning to say no and investing in my business, or perhaps just learning to say no to things that you just can't do, because we can only do so much. And so I think that's important to remember, that as you journey to executive coordinator, there will be a lot of decisions you'll have to make, and a lot of choices you'll have to make. And sometimes that's hard. That's really hard, but that was something that I've been learning.
And what to let go of in order to put something else in.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, just to wrap us up then, Ashley?
Yeah. So I did this picture because I live by this quote. This is just something that really has touched me since day one. Entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. And I have this almost rehearsed in my head whenever I'm feeling, like Katie was saying, that discomfort of like, oh, I don't want to do this, or, I dreading something, or feeling overwhelmed, or sometimes feeling that judgment of people like, why do you do that? I just remind myself I'm doing what other people won't do, because I want to live a life that others cannot. So a lot of this is what we've already talked about. There are ebbs and flows in this business as you grow. Know that, be aware of that, and love that part of it. This business is built on plateaus. So when you feel like it's plateauing a little bit, that's okay. Take the time, just realize that that's part of where your business is at right there. Practice what you preach, and do and act as you hope your team will. Be the leader that's influencing in ways through role modeling, and just, really holding on to the same values that you want other people to have. Focus on activity, not results. And I think Katie did a really great job of expressing what that means exactly. I on an everyday basis, have a certain, thing. I do these little blitzes of contacts, and regardless of the responses or the amount of people that sign up or whatever happens, I always feel so successful when I've had at least one blitz a day. And that is really rewarding. This is a new practice of mine, and it is really rewarding because it's almost impossible to focus on the results when you have just some things that you are sure that you do each day, and you're just like, yes, that's amazing. And it takes 30 minutes. It's nothing. Always stay focused on your why, so sometimes, always, I think that why is going to change. And I think it's really important to always be aware of it, to keep it present in your life, to have it posted places, I think that our why is really, really powerful. So you need to know what it is. Spend time developing yourself and growing as a leader. So just like Katie said, podcasts, webinars, these webinars, just really being mindful of doing the things that are going to help you grow, reading books. Somebody had said, like, if you read 10 pages a day of a book, just simply 10 pages a day of a book, you will continue to grow tenfold every day as a person. And I think that's what life is all about, is growing as a person. I know that there are people that are older than me on this webinar, but I had somebody recently I did a play date with, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm going to turn 23 soon. And I was like, huh? And for a moment I was like, I'm 23. And then I was like, no, I'm not. I'm still 30. But at the same time, I still feel like I'm young, but I'm so much more mature, and I've grown so much since then. And it's a beautiful thing, I think, to reflect on. And I think that a lot of people get stuck doing their day-to-day rut, and they don't spend time with personal development, and they are kind of the same person in 10 years. So I think that's a really cool thing to take on, whether you do Shaklee or not, just growing who you are. Never forget the basics, the true beauty of our business: contacting, following up, that customer care piece. Don't forget those things no matter where you are in your business, because I truly believe it's the customers that we already have that make or break the legacy we want to have. Remember the basics. And then at the end of the day, mindset. Be aware of who you are, where you're going, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. And I created this for an event, and I just thought, it was a really cool thing to kind of share to close this up. A lot of these are images. Well, they all are. They're all images that Shaklee created and will post. And I just think they're really great. And just a reminder of why we're doing what we're doing. The best way to predict your future is to create it. And that's what we're here trying to help everybody to remember and to understand.
Excellent.
Oh, it's really a nice graphic. All right, we wrap up with some action steps, Beck.
You bet. So just remember, we've got that 8 weeks to director at the Better Future Starts Today / whatever your website is called there. And so that is what you can totally use with your new distributors that you're meeting and are getting on board. If you need to go back and review that yourself as the upline, do that so that you can discuss the most important things from each week. We aren't going to meet next week, but then we're back on June 30th. And so this is a good time to review any of these sessions that we just have finished with our Journey to Executive Coordinator. And then starting June 30th, we have this awesome lineup of events that are happening. So we're going to talk about in-home events. We're going to talk about branding yourself, building your business on Facebook, the Facebook events and health chats, taking things offline, and then July 28th, cold market and studio pack approaches, which is going to be really good. And I am thrilled to learn from these ladies, Ashley, Katie, and Michelle, and the others on the Thursday morning team. This is going to be really a wonderful thing to take in this summer.
Excellent. So we have just a few questions real quickly. Becky and Pam, if you'll help me field some of these. Ashley, a couple of questions about blitzes. What time of day are you doing them, and what do you do them around?
So I do whatever time of day works for me. It's whatever fits into my schedule. And so sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes middle of the day, sometimes in the evening, but I do whatever works for me. And in terms of what they're around, it depends. I mean, if there's something that I'm inviting to, that a blitz might be focusing on that. So that's a Facebook event or a live event or an in-home, those kind of things, those would be focuses, or just general reach outs, reconnecting with people, having conversations with new people every single day that are not a part of Shaklee. In fact, I do new contact blitzes, but I also schedule 2 to 3 follow-up blitzes per week as well, where I just spend 30 minutes contacting all my current customers. So it's just a very concentrated time. So at the beginning of every month, I write a list of new contacts. I write a list of customers, or rather just print out my reports, and then I schedule these blitzes. And it's just time where I'm doing nothing else. I'm not scrolling Facebook. I'm not vacuuming the floor. I am just contacting people.
That's really good.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And we're also, someone asked about the graphics that you've seen that you used, especially on that last one. That's from the Shaklee Corporation Facebook page, right?
Yep, and their Instagram account, so either or.
And Instagram, great. Okay, and the others.
HQ.
Jamie had a great question of just putting these into her daily practice. My first thought is just to literally print out these PowerPoint slides to refer back to those. But you might have, Ashley, just from your background, a better answer for that. She wants to be able to put these, how does she know that she can avoid those enemies or at least tackle them on a daily basis? What would you say besides just reminding yourself of them? Or
Yeah, well, I think some of the most powerful things that we can do are reminders, whether that is a mental reminder, it's a physical object that you sort of attach to something. So you buy a bracelet or a watch or something, and you spend some time sort of like talking about what it is that you want to remember. And so every time that you look at that bracelet, those are the things that pop into your head mentally. Also, you can just post them throughout like an office or somewhere in your house, little things, little sticky notes. I have sticky notes pretty much all over my house that have little reminders, like right above my sink. It says, what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, God has prepared for those who love him. So just little things that kind of keep me going. And sometimes it's reminders of, the ebbs and flows. This is going to happen. Remember that. So little reminders like that. And then one, really great thing to do is the 21-day challenge for yourself, which is about how long it takes to create a habit, where you set a reminder in your phone to read about that thing once every single day for 21 days. It really, I do, honestly, right now I'm doing every hour on the hour, my alarm goes off to pray so that I can get better at calling on God all day, every day, rather than just in the morning and at night.
That's
so
awesome.
Little things just to kind of get into a habit or a routine.
Mm-hmm. I thought Robin had a really good question that is good for us to be able to just talk about just for a minute. She said, one of the things that Katie and Ashley both said was focusing on activity, not results. And she was like, now how does that fit in with PV planning, which is an excellent question. And what I would say, Robin, is we still want to do the plan. We still want to have the activities in place with a proposed result of what we want, but not being attached to that result. So that result might come. It might be less than what we thought. It might be more than what we thought. But we can rest assured and trust the process that we did the activity, if that makes sense. So it still is important to plan, but it's not. What would you guys say?
Well, PV planning is very flexible. It's fluid, so you want to be mindful.
Yeah.
As you set a PV plan, and maybe you say part of this PV plan is new people. I want 10 new customers, so I'm going to do 30 blitzes throughout the month, one every single day. At day 20, if that's not panning out, then you want to check it out. You want to look at that. You want to move things around. But that's just really go ahead, Katie.
Well, I think it's also it's the last week of the month, and I think we're all guilty of this. I know I am. And you look at your PV and you're panicking, and all of your energy and attention goes to, I still need to get 500 more PV or 1,000 more PV or whatever it is, instead of, okay, I have a week left. I need to start setting up 3 more activities this week because my PV is low. And I'm focusing instead on I need to add extra activities too. And I think it's something we all struggle with.
Mhm.
but I can see how that shift to just still doing something, still setting up an event. Somebody cancels an event. Okay, that's fine. Let's set up a new event. Let's set up a new activity. What can we do? And then just like Ashley said, just keep rolling with all of those activities that you had planned. But it's also a balance of planning out and anticipating where your PV is going to come from.
Mhm.
And you notice that when we make the plan, we kind of underestimate, for that reason. It is when we say that the average in-home that we project 250 PV, that is low. By the time you do the follow-up, so often, when we're doing our plan, you want to make sure what the plan tells you is how much activity it is probably going to take to reach whatever your PV goal is. And that's the value of it. And if you underestimate it, then you can adjust the level of your activity.
Mhm.
That's good.
Mhm.
It's a great question, Robin. Very good.
Mhm.
Okay. And people ask, where do you find the podcast? Is there a place you go online? So we know the Bob Heilig. We've talked about him before, HEILIG. Are there other places that you go that people can find podcasts?
I just
I guess
did a search online for whatever topic I'm wanting to get better at. Maybe it's my thinking, maybe it's leadership. And so you can do a Google for that. And usually there's names that you will recognize, because I don't want to listen to just anybody. I want to make sure it's somebody that I can trust. And so Katie and Ashley and Harper and Lisa, all of them have names that they have mentioned in the past. So if you recognize a name, that's who I would listen to, is somebody that can be a trusted speaker. But what were you going to say, Katie?
Yeah, I think that's Michael Hyatt is also somebody that Harper introduced our team to. He is a wonderful leadership focused, very good. And then Shalene Johnson is somebody else who I follow along with and is very entertaining and easy to listen to. And actually she gives really good advice on fitness and on exercise and different things like that. She is the person who does the PiYo Beachbody workouts. So although she does Beachbody, she never really mentions Beachbody. And I think that we have a lot to learn from people who do other companies. Mm-hmm. And I think it teaches us things. And so I think I love to learn from people in various companies. And I think she just does a really good job on coaching and on family and on the work-family balance and saying no. And she also has a lot of really good podcasts on negativity and how to deal with difficult people and how to deal with negative people. So those are good as well.
That's awesome.
How do you spell Shalene?
CHALENE.
Okay.
Interesting
Great.
name. Okay.
So many people enjoyed the webinar today. So many. Just lots of wonderful, wonderful comments. It's hitting home for a lot of people, including me.
Yes. So thank you, everybody. This is a wrap on our 10-week session on Journey to Executive Coordinator, a deep dive into leadership and people skills. And I just want to thank our trainers. They've put a lot of time, as you can imagine, into preparing material for all of us, preparing the slides and doing the background for us. And they are just a perfect example of the Shaklee culture that is always sharing and giving to others. So this session will be archived at Better Future Starts Today. And I think we're all going to be hopping on it real quick as soon as Chris gets it up. And then we will be sending you a new invite in about 2 weeks about the summer session. So we'll let you know more about that on June 30th. So watch for that. Thank you, training team. You are really quite wonderful. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
thanks everybody for joining us this morning. This is our last session of the 10 weeks that we have devoted to discussing Journey to Executive Coordinator. And it has really been really a great 10 weeks. We've had the benefit of leaders who are growing their businesses to really delve a little deeper into leadership conversations, into people skills conversation. And today we're going to be doing that even more so, is really understanding the more we can understand people, the more effective we're going to be in our businesses. So you want to go ahead and we'll cover these first couple of slides, Becky, and then I'll keep an eye out to unmute the others.
You bet. So we wanted to just put this up there again. This is through June 30th. So we have 2 weeks from today. You can accumulate these sponsoring points. And this is a special program that Shaklee has offered called Cash for Orlando. And the way it works is you can use your sponsoring points towards points that actually give you cash for Orlando. And you can accumulate those and get a share. A share is at least $100. And then if you get, Pam, we can hear you, I think. So anyway, if you want more details, go to the Member Center. Click on underneath the banner picture, there's a big button that says News and Events, and then look for the words Cash for Orlando, and that will give you all the details with that. We also just want to remind you that this is a great time to catch up on the Monday wellness webinars. If there's some that are archived that you haven't seen or watched yet, this is a great time because we're going to resume those after the convention, Monday, August 15th, and there will be a new registration link. And so go to the Learning from the Masters Facebook page for details for getting that registration link. So you'll have that. Again, June is the last month for us to qualify for Star Achiever, and this is a really special recognition that Shaklee does every year. And so it's great to be recognized as a Star Achiever. So you get lots of perks with that. You get access to a special registration. You get gifts and recognition. You get VIP seating. And then there's a Shaklee Star reception, which is really cool. So all you need to do for this to find out where you are is go into your Member Center page, your myshaklee.com. Under the Business tab, click Trackers and Incentives. And when you go there, one of the things to track is how many stars do you have, or are you close to your first star? And you can see how many points do you need, and it will tell you exactly how to get those points. And Stephanie Bruce last year took this beautiful picture just to show you kind of a teaser of what we got last year. But this wonderful purse, she got the Tiffany bowl, and then a beautiful Shaklee necklace, which is just a wonderful time to kind of feel the love from Shaklee. And then we're so excited to have Michelle on again. Michelle, I'm going to be taking notes because I really appreciate what you were sharing last week. And so if you can just tell us again, Michelle is very accomplished at Facebook and very organized, I would say, Michelle. And I love learning from you. So please teach us how to do this health and wellness Facebook album.
Oh, you guys are funny.
And maybe just to mention that Michelle had visited us last week in our pre-call, and she just happened to mention this health and wellness album that she creates for Shaklee products. And then we got about 42 questions coming in saying, tell us more about that. So we said, we'll give her the entire pre-call and she can tell us all, because it was really a fabulous idea. So now you're set up, Michelle.
You guys are sweet. See, I come off as really organized, but it's my team that keeps me organized. I'm like the fly on the seat of my pants person. I just come up with the ideas and they help me organize it. Okay, so in order, what I talked about last week was creating a health and wellness album on Facebook. And the reason I do that is so that other people don't get flooded with constant Shaklee on their timeline. And if you are friends with people on different direct sales, you'll see their stuff pops up quite a bit. And I found that when I consolidated it into one space, and I was able to not really offend other people because they see that I'm just categorizing it. And so everything that's Shaklee related or health related goes into this photo album. And so it also, the other great thing is it makes it easier. So when people are being nosy and they're stalking your Facebook page and they want to know more about Shaklee, they have one spot where they can go and look at everything instead of trying to hunt through your timeline. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gives you the basics. So I'm going to just run through how to create this album on your personal page. It's very easy. It's only a few steps. So, and there's a couple different ways to do it. So you'll want to go to your personal Facebook page. So you'll click on your profile. That's just my profile there. And then if you see at the top, it says timeline, about, friends, photos, and then more. So what you'll do is you're going to click on that photos little tab. And then after you click on that photos tab, it's going to show all of your, either your photos, and then you see here it says photos of you, your photos, albums. So you can do it one of two ways. The first way you could do it is to click on the little link, the little blue albums link, and the other way is to click on that little top square button that has the plus sign, create album. I personally, I click on the blue albums, and I do that because it brings me directly to all of my photo albums. If you click on the plus create album little link there in that little rectangle, what that's going to do, it's going to automatically ask you to upload photos. And so for me, I like to already see what photos I've put in my album. Mm-hmm. So if this is your first time, it doesn't matter. Either way, you're going to create an album.
Yeah, but you know what? I want to do what you do. So
okay. So exactly. So if you click on the little blue, this is what it will pop up. So you can see Facebook already puts all of my videos into an album, all of your featured photos. This is a side note, featured photos. You can edit. This has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but I get sidetracked. Just so you know,
you can be sidetracked. I write down everything you say.
So in that featured photo album, that's a picture of me as a star achiever last year.
It's a great photo.
Here at conference. You know, this year they're going to have a green carpet because of Shaklee. But that album there, those are the photos that pop up. So if someone goes to your profile, on the left side, they'll see featured photos. And those are just photos that automatically pop up. And so I have made it to where I have that as one of my featured photos.
Nice.
I think I have one at Shearmster Tree, and then like, you know, my family and maybe one other thing. But that's a place you could also choose a couple Shaklee photos to feature on your page.
Michelle, you are so smart. You are so smart. It's like
I want to pause. I want to pause for a minute for people who are joining. I want to tell them where we are. So last week, Michelle Parrott was with us in our pre-call, and she talked about creating an album on our Facebook pages where we can put Shaklee-related pictures and product information and so on. And she said by putting it in an album, nobody is offended. So she is explaining how she did that and more, because now I have a question here. Mm-hmm. What we're looking at. This picture that we're looking at, is this your personal, Michelle Parrott, personal
page? Facebook page.
Yeah, Facebook page.
This is my profile, yes. So this is when I'm logged into my own account. Mm-hmm. So yours will look exactly like this, except it'll just be yours. So when you're into your photos tab, this is what will pop up. You'll see, if you do have videos on your Facebook, you'll have a video album. And you may just have, like, I didn't put all of it, but you'll see there'll be timeline photos, and there'll be photos of you, you know, other people have tagged you in. I do monthly photo albums just for our family, so those are all on there. But the health and wellness is the one that I have. So
we're looking at now. That's the important one now. Okay, got it.
So when you get to this page, you'll see the albums. You're going to click on that. There was that box, you know, that had the plus, and then it said create album. That's what you're going to click on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then that will bring you to something it's not going to look exactly like this just because I already have my album. But what it'll do is it'll ask you to create a title, and I made mine just health and wellness, so it's not Shaklee branded. Again, I think that's something Bob Heilig talks about a lot, branding yourself and not your brand, because people trust you and not a company kind of thing. So I have it labeled as health and wellness. And then in the description part, that's where I put learn more here. And that's where I have my bit.ly. And that, again, I talked about last week in the pre-call, that bit.ly, that bit.ly, that is a website that shortens your links. So instead of it saying www.michelleparrott.myshaklee.com, this looks a lot nicer. And I can track it. So anytime someone clicks on my Parrott Wellness, I can go back to the bit.ly and see how many clicks were done.
Perfect.
So you have your title, you have your description, and then that's when you can add your photos. So you can see I have smoothie recipes, I have the veterans, and I mean, I've got over 200 photos in this album, so I didn't have all of it. But it's very easy. If you go back real quick so they can look at this. At the top, there are a couple different, you see it says edit and then tag, and then there's that little, like a little gear. The edit is where you will make all your changes for your title and for your description. The tagging, you can tag people to your album if you want. I personally don't, because I don't like to tag people unless they're okay with it. And then the gear will help change your settings. So for me, I post all of my specials in this health and wellness album. And Shaklee is very, I think it was a couple of months ago, they let us know that if we do our own specials as distributors, sometimes we offer free shipping with a certain PV order. It can't be made public. And that's because, I think that's because they don't want a customer to see your special and then ask their distributor why they're not doing that special.
Sure.
So I keep this only to my friends. So only my friends are able to see this album. It's not a public album.
So your customers know to go there?
Mine, yes. But I also have my own customer page. So I post anything I post in my customer page, I typically put in this health and wellness album. And I do that so that people that aren't members are able to see what I have.
Okay, nice.
And so this is just a little example of what it would look like on your timeline. And so it'll, if someone's looking through the timeline, they'll just see, oh, Michelle Parrott added a new photo to the album Health and Wellness. And they'll see the description, and then they'll see the photo.
That's awesome. It's so beautiful. Yeah. And Michelle, I know we have talked in previous ones, if people are curious how you make these great graphics, you talked a little bit about that last week. So that is archived too, how to make those pretty photos. Because most of the time, Michelle, you said that you usually are taking your own pictures and then just adding words to them. Is that right?
Yep. I used to do a little blog design. And so I just use Photoshop, but some free stuff, is online, like PicMonkey. And there's a lot of different photo apps on your phone that you can use too.
I'm going to go back one slide just for a second. I have one quick question. And can I just say how much I appreciate the step-by-step little pictures. I just need this. Yes. I need this because I'm going to save this PowerPoint. And then when I do this, I'm going to do exactly what you said here. So I really appreciate it. But when you said, I think that my Facebook page is just for my friends, but then you said public. How do I know if my Facebook page is public or friends?
So if you see, it does make sense. So on the health and wellness, you see the title there, and it says updated 18 hours ago, right next to it. Well, there's the two little figures. That means that it's just friends. But if you were to click that down, you could choose public, which has, the world globe. And then it says I think you can choose friends plus friends, which means your friends and then their friends can see it. But again, you have to be careful because of, the rules that Shaklee has as far as your specials go. Sure.
That is very, very helpful. So I have seen that little icon before. So that's really good. So that's how I can double check if it's friends or public. Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent.
Oh, one more thing.
Very
If you add more than one photo to your album at a time, so say you add 2 or more
Mm-hmm.
at a time, the only thing that will pop up on your timeline are the photos, your album title, and the description. So when I add a photo, and I have text that I want people to read, I try to only do one at a time, because then they'll see what I have posted here. If you add 2 or more, it will only have health and wellness, learn more here with the link, and then the pictures.
That's really helpful. That's really helpful.
Hey, I think I understood 75% of what you just told us.
Oh, you can do it.
I can do it. Hey, I can do it. No, I really like it, though. I
do too.
I just think, and the pictures are so beautiful that, anyway,
Well, and
I'm very impressed with this.
the psychology that you had talked about last week, Michelle, just really hit home with me because, that whole thing of, she's just filling in her health and wellness album is different than she's always posting something, So I really appreciated that insight. I hadn't thought about that.
They don't feel like they're being slammed with advertising.
Right.
It's so wonderful to be in a company with geniuses. Okay, so we are now ready to launch our final session of our journey to executive coordinator. Becky, get us started.
All right. And do we have everybody that we need unmuted?
Oh, yes. I question. Ashley, you want to do an audio test here? Ashley?
Yes.
Oh, there she is.
There she is. And Katie?
I'm here.
Oh, good.
Oh, there we go. We're in good shape. Okay.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Over to you, Becky.
You bet. 3, 2, 1.